seats here. Please come and occupy your seats. Okay, those who are sitting at the side, can you please come to this side? Come this side. Sitting at the side. Come friend. Okay, those who are sitting at the backmost, can you please come forward? There are seats here in front. You can sit down here in front. Okay, let's start. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And very good morning to everyone. All of you are first year PhD students, right? Yes. Okay. So before we begin, I just want to know how many of you from Faculty of Engineering? Can you please please? Okay, not many, right? Faculty of Law, Faculty of Commerce. Okay. Then faculty, are there any pharmacy? Okay. Then business management. Okay, any other faculty? Agriculture. Okay. Agriculture only one? Oh, there are many. Agriculture. Okay. Good. Good. Okay. Other than these faculties, any other faculties?
Bioscience.
Bioscience. How many biosciences? Okay. Good. Okay. Others?
Medical sciences.
Sorry?
Medical sciences. Medical sciences.
Medical sciences. Okay. Okay. Those who come at. Okay. Please come forward here. Sit in the front. Don't be shy. Okay, those at the back. Are you okay in the back? Come, there are seats here. You can sit in front. Please come forward. Okay. So you're all in research methodology course, right? Okay. So this is part of the coursework that you have to complete before you get into the main research as part of your dissertation. Okay. Okay, so what do you know about the PhD thesis? Do you know the difference between thesis and dissertation? Because these are two terms which are very commonly used interchangeably. Thesis, master's thesis, PhD dissertations. But not much differences between these two. Okay, different countries they apply different technologies. So anyway, thesis or dissertation is part of your research. They have to come up with a written statement comprising of different components that are related to research, whether it is at master's level or PhD level. The only difference between master's and PhD is the scope of the study. I feel that everyone understands the meaning of scope. Right? Scope is what? Anyone? What is the meaning of scope? I feel everyone heard about the term scope.
Area or dimension.
Louder, please.
Area or dimension of the subject.
Okay. Good. Okay. Any other response?
Limitations.
Hmm?
Limitations.
Limitation. Limitation is a different component altogether. Scope.
Boundaries. Boundaries. Broaden the research.
Broader research. Broader research.
Boundaries.
Boundaries. Okay, good. Boundaries. Boundaries encompassing what? Yeah, that's right. Boundaries. But encompassing what?
Specific area.
Yeah, please.
At master's level, basically the thing which we do in that it's not very accurate and precise. But on PhD level, we make it more clear and more precise and more accurate.
What you are going to investigate? What makes the difference in terms of investigation between master's and PhD thesis? Because why master's thesis can be completed in 1 year, PhD requires 3 years minimum. Even in all institutions, in India, even abroad, they make it as a regulations. The duration of the entire period of study. For masters, it can be 1 year minimum. I'm talking about minimum. Whereas for minimum duration for PhD is 3 years. Why they can't make it 1 year for both? PhD also they can make it 1 year. The minimum duration, right? But they're all theses, right? Dissertations. But why 3 years for PhD?
The depth and extent.
Yeah. I mean, it's the components. But scope is, okay, some of you say boundary, yes. We have to define the boundary in which, what are the main components that we want to investigate? So we have inside the boundary, outside the boundary. So inside the boundary, the components that you're going to study. Outside the boundary, the defined boundary by you as a researcher, you're not going to study. So you make it clear by yourself or anyone who read your thesis for that matter, including your supervisors, examiner. You're going to define these are the aspects, components that I want to investigate as part of my PhD thesis. Anything beyond this, I'm not going to investigate. But if you want to do that, there must be reason behind. You cannot simply say, okay, this is a component I don't want to investigate. No. There must be reason which you have to elaborate in detail. Why you want to focus only on these components? Why? The question of why. Why not others? So that needs to be clearly defined to convince your readers, your examiners. There must be some reason because the duration is given only 3 years for PhD, even though maximum says 6 years. But many of you try to attempt to complete within 3 years. So you cannot cover all the components because research is very wide and also it's very dynamic. It's not static. They are dynamic. They evolve. Changes take place almost every day, every month. Changes take place. So when you select a topic, there are many things that you want to study. Because of the limitation in terms of the duration of the study, it is highly impossible to cover all the components within that topic, basic topic. And that's the reason why the scope comes to help you. So you have to define these are the components that I want to cover, that I want to investigate as part of my PhD topic. Anything beyond the scope, you're not going to cover. But of course, as I said, they have to provide a clear explanation why you want to cover only those components. You have to justify it. You have to reason it. Okay, so that's the meaning of scope. So scope is a boundary that we set, and we include the components that you want to cover as a researcher, as a PhD scholar. Okay, so PhD, keep in mind, it's a long journey, minimum 3 years. So most of the time, you're going to be, okay, those are the sitting in the back, can you hear me? Is it audible? Is it clear? My voice? Okay. So PhD is a journey. For everyone, you have about to start a journey. Now you are in first semester, first year, first semester. It's a long journey, 3 years. It's a long period, 36 months. So you're going to spend most of the time individually, independently. Because you all come across the basic qualification. You did your bachelor, you did your master's. Now you're about to embark on your PhD research. Okay, so most of the time you'll be spending your research independently with the supervision, of course. But you're not going to supervise every day or every week. It depends on the needs. If you have anything that you want to clarify, you go and consult with the supervisors. So it's not going to be as frequent as possible, the consultation with the supervisors. So what you have to do, you have to mentally prepare. This is something that I want to cover initially before we touch on the PhD research. So you have to prepare mentally. And sometimes your emotion, your okay, can you please come forward? Your interest, interest may go down because you're working independently with no friends. Unlike masters and bachelor, you have friends in the classroom. You can discuss freely. But here, unlike masters, here you're going to do individual, independently. So your interest may go down. Sometimes you may lose interest after spending 6 months. Okay, what I'm doing here, spending on the same topic for the past 6 months, I didn't get any direction where I'm going, or whether I'm going the right direction or not. That may pull you down. Okay, but you have to stay strong, including me. Everyone who have gone through the process, PhD process, I also felt the same way. But you have to be very focused because there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Always think about the end. So this going down of your interest, your focus is only temporary, maybe a week or 2 weeks. So what you have to do during the time, just take a break. Break on study, do something else that you are more interested. Then you can come back. Okay? So don't easily give up. And that's my message that I want to convey. That's normal. Your emotion, your interest, focus going down, it's normal. But you have to continue your journey constantly, knowing that you are going to complete, you are going to achieve something at the end of 3 years. So that should be in your mind fixed firmly. So with that in mind, inshallah, your progress, you can see a steady progress, inshallah, until you complete your thesis. And that's the moment that you will cherish. After you complete your moment, that's the happiest moment that you cherish. Because why you cherish that happiest moment? Because you come across some hard work. You spend many sleepless nights. You spend a lot of efforts, a lot of dedication, determination, commitment, concentration. Stay focused. You sacrifices. Individually also sacrifice from your family matters, sacrifices, dream work. So because of all this hard work, when you complete your PhD, that's the moment that you celebrate. So you have to think about the moment all the time along your journey towards your journey until you reach your destination, which is completion of your PhD. Okay. So PhD is something completely different from masters. So my suggestion is before we go on this, read as much as possible, especially from journals, because you have to stay updated in your knowledge, in your skills. Books will not give you that. Books are also important, but do not give the updated. Because books are written few years back. But they're also important. In some contexts, they're all important. But what is more relevant is articles that are published in journals, reputed journals. So in your topic, in your research area, read as much articles published in reputed journal as possible. That is where you stay updated. You know what's happening in that topic. What were the earlier research you done and all. And how your research is different from those research. In what context? Is this going to be a completely a new idea, or it's going to be an extension of the existing idea? It can be both ways. Your PhD research can be both ways. Not necessarily you have to come up something new. You have to discover something new. It can be extension. That's the reason why when you read article, you can define what we call the gap, the research gap. Okay, research gap, I think everyone understands what it is. A gap. You know, anyone know? Everyone knows the meaning of gap. What is a gap? The meaning of gap.
Which is not
Sorry.
Unanswered question.
Answer question.
Unanswered.
Unanswered.
Not answer question. Okay. Not answer question. Okay. Any other response?
The lacuna which is not being filled by earlier research.
Okay. Good. Not done by earlier research. Okay. The gap. We are not talking about research gap. I'm talking about the literal meaning of gap. What's a gap literally?
Space.
It's a space. Okay. But in terms of accomplishment, there are two things in front, right? One is actual, the other one desired. Okay, actual, desired. Actual is what is happening. What you want to achieve is desired. So when there is a distance, there is a gap. Right? Let's say you want to become aeronautical engineer, for example. That's your desire. But you are in some other field which is not of interest. That's actual. So there's a gap. Okay. So we try to narrow this gap as much as we can. But it needs hard work. It needs effort from your side. So when you talk about research gap, you say research gap is like what some said. It's identifying what other researchers did and what they're going to do. And that's the reason the importance of literature arts. When you read as many articles as possible, you can identify the gap between what you're going to investigate and what were already investigated. Thereby you know what's the gap that you're going to bridge. So that will help you to take off your journey on your page. So your mind will be clear, okay, this is something which is not that, which I'm going to do as part of my PhD research. So you put your mind in a clear direction, you are in the right path, right directions. And that's the reason initially, before you start your PhD thesis, read as many literature as possible. That's very important and pertinent and relevant. The more you read, the more you become clear in the direction, not the less. Sometimes more we read, the more we become confused. I'm not sure whether you agree or not. But that also happens. So the more you read, the more clearer you become. Now, of course, when you read articles comprises of 12 pages, 15 pages. Okay, so what you have to do, I suggest you, when you read, you say, I like it. Don't read the entire article. When you read the entire article at a glance, you may not know what is written in the article. What is the focus of it? Focus on the abstract. Normally, any article in a reviewed journal, they have an abstract at the initial of the article. The abstract is more like a brief summary of the entire article. Normally, when you look at the abstract, there are different components that are covered. Number one, a brief introduction in one line. The abstracts normally, in many journals, they ask for restriction in terms of number of words. It should not be more than 250 words. It should not be more than 300 words or 500 words, depending on the nature of the journal. But it has limitation in terms of number of words. So when you look at very closely the abstract, you can identify a very brief introduction in one line, maximum 2 lines. Then that is followed by objective, the purpose of the study of that paper. Then a brief note on the methodology. What methodology is used to analyze the data. Then you see the major findings. Then that is followed by recommendations. So introduction, objective or purpose of the study, methodology, the major findings, and finally recommendations. Now these are the 5 main components normally covered in abstract. So when you read the abstract, you know what is the entire article is talking about. You get a glimpse. You get a glimpse of the entire article, what the entire article is talking about on that particular topic. So with that in mind, you can read other section in the article. So that helps you to understand better about the article. And what it, as I said, gives an highlighter, a mark, because you are going to re-refer the same article at a later time. Because to read one article, it takes a lot of time. It depends on how fast that we grasp the article. Some may take 30 minutes, some may take 1 hour, some may take 2 hours to read one article. So at a later stage, when you are moving forward on research, you may have to read the same article again. So when you have highlight, then you can go directly to the highlights. No need to read the entire article again. So in that way, you can save time, you can save your efforts. Always use a highlight in your hand whenever you read an article, mark it, the important point there. Because you're not going to read only one or two articles as part of your research. You're going to read as many articles as possible, minimum 100 or minimum 150 articles. But when you read articles, please refer to those articles which were published in the last 5 years. And that's a norm, general guideline. But it doesn't mean that you should not go beyond 5 years, but normally try to cover as many articles as possible in the last 5 years. Because the more recent the knowledge is, the more recent the topic is. The more recent the findings are. Because as I said, research is dynamic. The same topic 10 years ago and 5 years later, there are a lot of changes we can see. So I'm going to take the finding which were published 10 years ago or 5 years back. Obviously, the recent findings, because they are updated, knowledge is updated. So read as many articles as possible which were published in the last 5 years. So remember, literature is very important. That's the reason why normally if you look at the PhD thesis, your report PhD thesis, that you're going to prepare after you complete your data collection analysis. Normally, the thesis it has one chapter exclusively for literature. Okay. And if you look at the meaning, what's the meaning of literature? You read the literature. Review, read literature. So it tells you, it's talk about the originality of your research. And that's the important significance of reviewing literature. In what way your research topic is original? In what way your research topic is going to contribute to the advancement of existing knowledge? How do you know about existing knowledge? Existing knowledge comes from literature. So when you read literature, you can define in what way your research topic is going to contribute. It's going to be original on the advancement of knowledge and the advancement of technologies, theories, practical acting, and so on. So that is the significance of any literature. So spend time wisely, read. I think every day you have to at least spend half an hour. That's my advice, personal advice to all. Because reading, it doesn't help only to look at literature, it will also enhance your language skills, your vocabulary skills. The more you read, the more new terms that you come across. So that will help you when you want to express your idea, because you have a lot of ideas. But when you want to express, that is where you were struck many times. The term that you want to use. Because English is not our first language. Whether we like it or not, we use English. And why we use English? Because most of the articles published were in English. But they're written by the researchers from US, UK, Australia, and so on. Okay. So we read in English, the articles in English. So the more you read, the better your command on language will be. And that's the another beauty of reading. Not necessarily your article, also read newspaper or any news that are published in CNN, BBC. They're all reputed news organizations. So you can command your language, you command your vocabulary. Okay. So reading is one of the important and fundamental part of PhD thesis. Okay. So please, let's make advance. Read as much as you can and try to spend at least 1 hour, depends on your schedule, half an hour, 1 hour every day to read. Okay, that's reading. Number 2, writing. Because we have written language, spoken language. Writing is another fact. Because you are going to write articles. But if you put the requirement of this university as part of completing your PhD thesis, you must not share can. Not share or can. You must. It's a compulsory, mandatory. You must publish at least 2 articles, either in Scopus, Indexed Journal, or SEI or WOS, Web of Science, Index Journal. That's a requirement. So what does it mean? You are going to write. And writing another, the most challenging part. Because again, because English is not a language. If we ask about local language, we can write. Not write 1 page, you can write 100 pages. We can express all our ideas in a way that it's supposed to be. When you write in your own language. But when you want to write in English, and that is where we stop. Because we don't know exactly what are the terms we use, and we have to put the dictionary to use the right term. So it is an ongoing process. So what you have to do, when you read, also spend some time to write simultaneously. It will help you later on. You may not realize the importance of writing and reading, but you will realize at a later stage how important it is. So spend your time wisely, spend at least half an hour, 1 hour, write something, scribble something. Not necessarily in your topic, it can be any other topic that may be of interest to you. Right. After you write, do review it. Identify the mistakes that you made. Rectify those mistakes by referring to a dictionary or any other sources. Improve from it. And rewrite. Again, read. And that is how anyone whose language is not English, they do like that. And we can see the command of the language at the output our writing skills has improved over the years. You will realize. And no one can test you. You can test yourself. You are the best judge. You can judge yourself. How you have improved over the years. Okay, so don't stop writing. Don't stop reading. And also please do not stop writing. Okay, because the idea that we express is very, very important. Because when you read an article at a later stage of your PhD thesis, the article that you write is not for you. If it's not for you, then for whom? To whom you write the article? To whom you write the article? For example, you read an article, right, which you already published. Those articles were not written by you, right? Written by someone else. They wrote, but you are the one who read the articles. So when you write the same thing by yourself, who are the one who read your article in the future? Someone else, right? So what does it mean? The readers. So when you write, we must always think about the readers. Don't think about yourself when you write. You may understand what you write, but what you write may not be understandable by those who read that. So you have to think about the readers who will read your article. That should be your mind when you write something in your article. So that you know exactly how to, why I'm saying this, you know how to express your ideas. The language that you use, whether it is clear, concise, whether it is understandable by anyone who read. For example, when you read an article written by others, if you don't understand, what do you do? The way it was written, it was not clear, many grammatical errors. The structure of the statement has many syntax errors. It's not clear, clearly expressed. What the author is talking about is not clear. Right? You will try to highlight right, those points. Right? So say applies for anyone who read your article. So we have to devoid of those errors. That's the reason the reader should come in mind. So how do you improve your writing skills? You have to write frequently. every day at least spend some time, try it. So you will see the difference that you are making. Because whatever hard work that you accept, put on, the result will not be immediate. I hope that you agree. It will be immediate. You will do something, then tomorrow you will expect something, some benefit out of it. No, it's a long term. For example, even for your PhD thesis, you are spending 3 years. The benefit will come only after 3 years. Right? Not within a month or within a year. It comes only after 3 years. The benefit comes. So any hard work effort that we accept, the benefit comes at a later stage. So we have to think of the benefit all the time, whatever we do now. Okay. The other aspect that again literature that I want to emphasize is please read other PhD theses. We're going to touch on the topic that I want to touch. Okay. So try to read other PhD theses. But when you look at the PhD thesis written by UK PhD scholars and US PhD scholars, I hope that you know the differences. Are you not familiar with that? No. Okay. Because in US, the completion of PhD thesis is only partially required, same like here. And at the university, if you look at the thesis, any PhD thesis written in this institute, you will see the report. You will see at the front cover of the thesis is written, this thesis is a partial fulfillment for the requirement of PhD thesis. Partial. That is in US. Why partial? Because any reason why partial? Why not full requirement? Why partial? Because partial involves coursework. In US, it's a compulsory for PhD scholar to complete certain coursework. 20 credits, 30 credits, 20 credits coursework. They must complete. Only after completion of those coursework, they can enter into the next stage of research. Because completion of coursework is a requirement to do the PhD thesis. And that's the reason why it's a partial program. But in UK, there are no courseworks. UK, even Malaysia, in Singapore, and other countries, no coursework. It's right from day one until the end of year 3, focusing only on your PhD thesis. No coursework. So if you look at those theses written in UK, Singapore, and other countries, it's a full fulfillment of PhDs. So that's the difference between partial and full. Okay. So in our university, it is a partial because we're attending coursework. It's a requirement you have to complete. So the other advantage that you may have, your thesis is not that heavy compared to UK thesis. Because you also have coursework which you need to complete. And for this thesis, they are giving certain credits. If you look at the ordinance, have you all read the ordinance of PhD? For PhD thesis is 88 credits, right? And you have to complete your coursework 12 credits. So your PhD thesis, your final PhD thesis is not that heavy compared to the thesis in UK. UK, if you look at, is very thick, 300 pages, 350 pages, very thick. It's very comprehensive because they spend a lot of pages for literature. Literature is paramount to UK for the PhD scholars who are doing the PhD. So that is the difference between partial and full fulfillment of it. So your name page is a partial fulfillment. So we have to consider that at the beginning when you start using it. But still you have to cover all the components. Whether it is UK, US, still you have to cover all the components. So try to know everything in advance before you start embark on it, so that you are clear in your mind what exactly that you are required to do along with your. Okay, so read previous PhD. It gives you some ideas. What are the content? What should the content of this is, and each section what they covered. What are the various subtopics they covered? It gives you some idea. Grasp that idea. so that in your journey you can apply. You have to apply that. You know exactly how to execute those sections in your basis. Okay, that's one. The second advantage is you know exactly when you do case thesis, you know what the areas covered by the previous case scholars, so that you can deviate from those. You're not going to do exactly on the same thing that they did. Otherwise, it becomes a redundant, a duplication. So to avoid that, read cases on your topic, cases on your topic, so that you can find yourself you are doing something different from them. Something different. What I mean is, it can be the way in which you collect the data. It can be different, or the methodology you apply. I feel that everyone understand the meaning of methodology. What's methodology? Methodology.
Method of research that needs to be adopted.
Sorry.
Method of research that needs to be adopted.
Okay.
We thereby doctrinal and political or any other thing.
Okay, good. Good. Any other response? Good.
Approach of solving. Approach of solving.
Approach. Okay, what is dermatology? Dermatology. Study, right? Study of skin. Cardiology. Ophthalmology. So methodology. Study of methods. You say research methodology. Study of research methods. Study of research method that you are going to apply in your PhD thesis. The proper method is method in terms of how you collect the data. Because all the PhD thesis require data. Without data, you cannot progress, whether it is engineering, law, or other faculties. You must need data. And data is normally for any research, including PhD. It consumes a lot of time. And it's the most time-consuming stage of your PhD. Because you have to prepare your data, you have to collect your data. It needs a lot of time. As a guideline, I can say it takes 40 to 50% of your time to complete your data collection process. So majority of your 3 years you'll be spending on data collection. That's why you need to prepare well in advance what data you need, how you're going to collect, what are the limitations involved in those data collections. So if you prepare well in advance, then you can reduce the amount of time that is required to collect. You can save. So when you talk about method, study of method, this method is involved data collection, and data analysis. Now these are the 3 main sections normally we cover under methodology: data collection, and how you analyze the data after you collect it. How you analyze. Analyze means the method or techniques that you use to analyze the data. Okay. Okay. Some cases like social science, they use statistical techniques. Okay. In engineering, they use scientific techniques to analyze the data. Okay. So these are the 3 main components that is normally covered in. And remember, methodology is the heart of any thesis. Very, very, very important. That's why if you look at because I haven't come across the thesis that I've done here. There is a separate chapter. Normally, you should have this. I want to emphasize to all the thesis for the year, for going to do your research. Include one chapter exclusively on research methodology. So in that chapter, you have to elaborate what the question of what are the data that are required for your topic according to your research objectives. We are going to discuss all these things. What is it we have to define? We are going to discuss. So what are the data that are required to achieve your research objectives? What? Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, how? How you are going to collect the data? The previous section is what are the data. The next one is how. How you are going to collect the data? What technique? Like example, social science, they use survey instruments, questionnaire. Questionnaire as one of the method to collect it. In the case of science and engineering, they use equipment in the laboratory. Or sometimes you go and collect sample from the outside. That's how, what techniques you're going to use or apply to collect the required data that you identify in the previous section. How? Then that is followed by, again, how and what. What are the methods you are going to use to analyze the data? What technique you are going to use? Because some of you may use modeling, analytical or mathematical modeling. So what model you are going to use? Whether it's going to be a simulation model or other analytical model you are going to apply to analyze the data that you already collected in the previous section. What method you are going to use to analyze the data? So these are the main three sections. You have to elaborate, remember. But not only do you have to elaborate on this, it's very useful to have what we call a flow chart. You can have it, but flow chart not saying that these are the data, this is how we are going to collect, this is the no, it has to be comprehensive. The flow chart must be comprehensive. So anyone who read the flow chart, they understand what the methodologies are about. But in addition to the flow chart, you must also describe each and every stages that is involved in methodology. Elaborate. That's why normally methodology it normally constitutes a separate chapter by itself. There are a lot of things need to be described under methodology. Okay. So methodology is very important and important. Remember, without methodology, you cannot achieve the objectives. Methodology will help you to achieve your objectives. Okay. So that's on methodology. Okay. Okay. The other thing that I want to highlight here is again there is an opportunity as part of your PhD journey. Try to present your paper in any international conferences. You have to search for those opportunities. The advantage of presenting a paper in international conferences, you can build what we call effective networking with fellow researchers. You can have a close interaction with the fellow researchers, and you can talk about, you can discuss what are the research that you're doing, and even at the later stage, it will be helpful. Inshallah, after you complete your PhD, we want to extend that collaboration. It will also help you, because completing your PhD is only the beginning of your research, not the end. Completing your PhD thesis after 3 years, spending 3 years, it's only the beginning of your research journey. So beyond that, you're going to extend your research journey, but not as a PhD scholar. Maybe as a professional, as a lecturer in the university or in any research organization as a scientist in the research organizations. So you're going to extend your research journey beyond completing your PhD thesis. So in those times, in those instances, your networking that you establish during your participation and presentation during the international conference will greatly help you. With your immense help. You can define the research collaboration. You can tie up with those researchers. You can work together as a joint research. As a result, you can publish as many papers as possible. But that is where one advance, including me. Whenever I go to any conference, the first thing I do is exchange my name card. So you have to prepare your name card. Like what, whether you know the practice of Japanese. Japanese, they have this very good habit. Normally come from there. They prepare the name card within advance. The first thing they do is, because I was in Japan. I was in Japan for 2 years doing my postdoctoral research that was back in 1990, 2000 or 1999. So I learned a lot of good habits from the Japanese. One of them is this. They attend conferences, they prepare the name card. The first thing, whenever they meet any new individual in the conference or anywhere for that matter, the first thing they do is they exchange the name card. Exchange not for the simple reason for exchanging. There is a reason behind it. After they return to the campuses attending the conferences, they make use of that. They communicate by email, asking for possible collaboration in research. They expand the networking beyond that. But they gain a lot of research through that collaborations. Because Japanese normally they want many foreign researchers to get involved in research. That's the reason why Japan, you can see, the government of Japan, they allocate a very high budget for research. And later on, you can think of going to Japan for your postdoc. They have this what they call JSPS. I don't know whether you heard about it. JSPS stands for Japan Society for Promotion of Science. Okay, that's one later. Okay, so what I'm saying here is try to attend as many international conferences as possible. It can be within India, it can be outside. So prepare your name card and try to exchange it with the fellow researchers. And later on, you don't just simply receive and just put it on your desk. No. After return, send an email. Try to find possible collaboration. So you can come up with a joint proposal, put up a joint proposal, you can secure research grant for the proposal, you can advance further on your research. And that is where one build further on the research. So the more research that you get involved, the more competent you become on your specialization. Even if you want to become a lecturer later on, you have the expertise on your research area. You must know what you want to teach your students. You want to provide the right knowledge, skills to students that you want to teach. So how you can do that? Only through research, not by reading textbooks or books. Only through research you can do that. You can provide the updated, latest skills and knowledge to the students you want to teach. After you complete your PhD and you are interested to join any university as a lecturer or academic staff in the institutions. So research, great help. Okay, when I talk about research, anyone know what is the meaning of research? Yeah, research there.
Searching again and again.
Okay, good. Research. Okay, very good. Now you can split that into two, right? Research. Research again and again and again until you come up with something or something extension of the existing research. So you search again and again on the topic. So how do you search again and again? That's why the literature comes. You search from the literature. Okay. So in all these contexts, again I want to emphasize the importance of. So we have come to the topic here. We have spent 1 hour almost. I'm just giving a brief introduction about the page. So this is your first class, right? First class of your research methodology course. So this is only here. Still, we are in the brief introduction for the research methodology. Here we are. Let's touch on the topic that I want to touch. Okay. Okay. So the importance of international conferences is very important. Whether international or national, doesn't matter. Try to attend as many as you can, because even international is not easy because it involves a lot of resources, expenses. So try to identify the conferences where the charges are very less. Try to at least one during your entire 3 years, at least one. At least you get some exposure to the conferences. Okay. Minimum one. Try to make an attempt. To discuss with the supervisor, find the possibility of attending and presenting a paper in an international conferences, minimum one. Okay, so make it as a point as part of your PhD journey. Okay, so that is on international conferences. Okay, the other one that I want to touch on is the relationship between student and supervisor. And that's very important as well. So I suggest at the beginning, so now you're doing your coursework, you have to complete that first. But when you start your research after completing the 3 courses as part of the department, when you start your PhD thesis, you have to establish a good relationship. So you want the constant guidance, supervision from the supervisors. So I suggest at the beginning you prepare a chart. chart in terms of the duration and timeline and the frequency of discussion with your supervisor. Whether you want to discuss once a week or once a month or once in 2 weeks, prepare schedule. And try to stick to the schedule because supervisors they may be busy. You're also teaching, you're also involved in other research, and they also supervise other PhD scholars. Not only one supervisor, one PhD scholar. No. Some may have 5, 6. So they have to distribute the time accordingly or proportionately. Because some researchers they need more time from the supervisor because they are in the second year and third year. They are going to complete this, so they have to spend more time with the supervisor. Some initial stage, maybe you want to have a preliminary discussions. So at least for 1 semester or 2 semesters, initially prepare a schedule and try to adhere to the schedule. As agreed, once you prepare a schedule, discuss and agree between you and your supervisors. So that you can stick to the schedule and you can have a constant supervision by the respective supervisors. But supervision is very important. Very, very, because you are starting the journey. You don't know anything at the beginning. So you need effective guidance from the respective supervisor on the topic. And that's the reason why the university appoint a supervisor. And some universities also appoint what we call co-supervisors, more than one. So if you have but the main supervisor play a very important role in guiding your thesis from the beginning until the end. So establish a cordial relationship with your supervisor and show the chart and get it agreed by the supervisor and stick to the chart in terms of discussion or interaction between you and your supervisor. So the guidance is that it's very important. And even when you read articles, as I said at the beginning of this lecture, if you come across anything that you're not clear, discuss with the supervisor to make it clear. Because when we look at the 3-part bachelor thesis, they have big project run, then master's thesis and PhDs. The difference is BTech is more an understanding of research methodology. When it comes to MTech, master's is more application, more than understanding, application. Okay. About PhD, it's more on originality or contribution to knowledge. Because masters and BTech undergraduate project, we don't expect contribution. But PhD is a must, it's a mandatory. There must be contribution. So in your PhD thesis, at the end of or the beginning of the chapter, depending on the requirement of the supervisors, there must be a separate section on contribution to knowledge. So PhD thesis is all about contributions, originality. And that's the reason why you are given 3 years to complete. Because contribution cannot be achieved in 1 day. Originality cannot be achieved in 1 day. You need more time. So even more time. Okay. Another topic I also highlight this during our orientation the other day. We can recollect. Try to complete your PhD within the minimum duration. Don't extend. 3 years means 3 years. It is highly possible, but you have to work hard to complete in 3 years. Because the more the time you spend beyond 3 years, what are the consequences? You spend beyond 3 years to complete your PhD. The more outdated your subject will be, the data that you collect. When we compare data this year, next year, are the same. Things are changing fast. Right. So try to complete your PhD with the minimum time period, which is 3 years, so that you can graduate your PhD and start thinking about other things. Okay. So don't try to extend your PhD beyond 3 years. And that's another suggestion that I want to impart. Okay. So that is on the duration. So we talk about many things. Okay. Right. Okay. Anything before we move on to the topic? Any questions you have? Anything you want to raise? Any questions? Yeah.
Previous question, the difference between the thesis and dissertation.
Okay. Okay, thesis normally, okay, in some many countries, thesis normally is used for masters. They use master's thesis. But again, in some countries, they also use master dissertations. But normally, if you look at any references, this is normally applicable for master's level. And the length of the master thesis normally is much lesser. And the duration is much less. Whereas dissertation normally applies for PhDs because of this length. That is much longer length of the thesis or dissertation much longer. At the same time, it takes more time to complete a dissertation. So dissertation is more in depth on that particular topic. So for PhD, normally it is used dissertation. But again, as I said, these two terms, they are used interchangeably. In some countries, even in here, we use PhD thesis, not dissertation. They can be used. But if you look at the actual differences between this, dissertation normally applies to PhD, and the term thesis is normally applied to masters. But it is not wrong even if we use PhD thesis. It is not wrong. Okay. If you look at some countries, they use dissertation for PhD, and this is for masters. It's clear? Okay. Any other questions? Yeah, please.
So you talked about.
Now you have to speak louder. I can't hear you.
You talked about number of pages for PhD in the US. You said it's around 300 to 350, right?
US.
UK, sorry. Number of pages. You said it's around 300 pages. So you talk about India. Can you tell us the number of pages here?
Okay, you have partial requirement. Normally partial requirement. In the case of UK, because there is no coursework, it's fully on PhD thesis or dissertation. And that's the reason why the thesis is of a high volume. If you look at the thickness, it's quite thick. But there is no coursework involved. But in the case of here, because they use coursework, and it is a partial fulfillment, not full fulfillment, partial, because of the coursework. So if you look at the length of the thesis, it's not that long compared to the thesis or dissertation prepared in UK. So the pages, it can be 100, 150, but not more than that. But there is no guideline saying that it should be within that. As long as you cover all the, but what you have to do, not on the number of pages. You have to check on the components that you want to cover in your PhD dissertation. Like as I said, introduction, then literature review. The literature review here is not as extensive as in the case of UK. So in that way, you can save a lot of pages. In the case of a partial fulfillment. But in the case of in the UK, the literature review alone, it runs into many pages, 70 pages, 60 pages, only on literature review chapter. But in the case of partial fulfillment, maybe 20 or 30 pages. Okay. So it's clear, sister. Okay.
With regard to reading an article from journals, reading an article from journals, sometimes you read articles over and over again, and the gap is not clearly stated. You find out that finding the gap from the article is a problem. What advice or methods should you do in such?
Okay, trying to find the research gap.
Yes.
Okay, that's the reason why I said identify gap is not that straightforward process. It's not straightforward. So you have to read not one or two, you have to read many. So from there, at least you come up with some idea what need to be done based on those earlier research. So once you have some ideas, the idea cannot be complete. You have some initial ideas based on those articles that you read. What you have to do, go and discuss with your supervisor with that idea. Get more explanation whether this idea can be further investigated as part of your PhD thesis. One. Number two, also discuss with supervisor whether this idea were covered in any other research, any other PhD thesis. They will tell you. Okay. So it is not easy, I agree. It's not easy, it's not straightforward process to identify the research gap. Initial stage, you will struggle. That's a process. But the more after 6 months, that will be reduced to some extent. The difficulties in identifying the research gap will be reduced after assessment. But now you are at the initial stage. So you are not clear how to identify the research gap. Even after reading 10 articles, still you are not clear. So it takes time. So this coursework, you make use of this coursework. It's no, my suggestion is don't attend, in addition to attending this course, also read. Read literature article related to your topic. You already have a topic, I guess. Everyone has a topic, right? That you want to do your investigation as part of your PhD thesis after completing your coursework, right? So read your article while you are attending classes. Okay, you have a lot of time, I guess, because this semester you are required to take 23 courses, right? As part of the completion of this requirement. So 3 courses is not that heavy. You have time. So during your time, besides attending the classes, read the article and read the gap. And also you can go and discuss with the staff, academic staff. So initially, you may face difficulties, challenges in implementing the gap. But over the time, that difficulties will be reduced. You can see by yourself. Okay. So in addition to that, have a consultation with your supervisor. Supervisor will help you whether this area can be further investigated, whether it before investigated or not, or whether it can be further investigated by you. They will help. They will supervise. Right. Any other questions? None? No, the point will be raised. You're clear what I said so far? Is it clear or not?
Yes,
sir. Yes. So if there is no, let's move on. So I'm going to talk about on this overview of PhD research. I don't call thesis, I don't call dissertation, I call research and PhD. It's a research, the first place. Okay. But research can also be done after PhD. That's also research. Like I also do research. Although I have my PhD, I also do research. All the academic staff, we do research. And that is one of the important pillars of academic staff. We have to do research all the time for the advancement of knowledge and also advancement of ourselves individually. So I call it as PhD research. So what you are going to do for the next 3 years after you complete your coursework is your PhD research. But when you complete your research, we call it as a thesis, the report you are going to submit. It's a thesis or it's a dissertation. At the end of your research, after you complete your thesis in a hard binding format, it is called a dissertation or it's called a thesis. But from the beginning, you are going to do the research. Okay. So I call it as PhD research. PhD, I believe everyone knows the expansion of PhD. What is PhD? PhD, what's it mean, PhD? Doctor class, okay. Okay, doctor class, right. Okay, let's move. The screen is not moving. think at the back, can you read? I think it's small, I guess, the font size. Can you all read? Yes, sir. At the back. Okay. So this is the content. And I say it as a dissertation. Someone asked me the difference, right? PhD dissertation, or it can be thesis as well. So this is the brief content of your PhD thesis that you are going to involve during the entire 3 years time. Okay. So if you look at this one, they are divided as chapters. Same like a book. Book also has chapters, right?
Yes.
So dissertation thesis also has chapters. Chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, and so on. Okay. So you are going to prepare this, remember. Once you start your PhD research, after completing the coursework, you are going to prepare this. So what you have to do, you have to come up with a preliminary structure. We call it as a structure of your PhD dissertation or thesis. So please bear with me. I use these two terms interchangeably. Sometimes I use dissertation, sometimes I use thesis. So don't get confused. It can be. Okay. So this is the structure of your PhD thesis. Every one of you will be doing this. Okay, whether you come from engineering or whether you from biosciences, law, you are going to do this as part of your PhD research. The structure of PhD thesis. Okay, before that, the other point that I missed, what I highlighted, because we spend much time on the literature, right? So please, the library, can you visit the library? So please, that means that you are not doing your work. Please visit the library. They have a good collection of materials. But if you don't find those materials here, you can also refer to other lab, because now it's online. Everything is in online now, the databases. If you come to the library, you get access to the database. You can refer to the material even from other universities. If you don't find those materials in this library, but in this library they also have a good collection, a wide collection of materials. Whether it is a journal or whether it is a book that you may need and that you want to refer to as part of your PhD. So visit the library as frequent as you can. Okay, number one. Number two, I also missed the point is this university also has a very good, I can say excellent research facilities. We go top at level 4, I guess, or level 5. You can see all the research about individual faculty. You can also visit. Just pay a visit to those. Try to familiarize with those facilities, laboratory that is already equipped in the university. At least you get an idea whether you're going to apply those facilities as part of your research. Okay, so try to familiarize with those laboratories as part of your research. Okay, so these are two things that I want to highlight. So please, whenever you have time, just go and visit. Spend more time, not time. Spend more time in the library, and whenever you have time, go and visit the research facilities laboratory. Okay, so coming back to this. The first chapter of your thesis is introduction. Okay. Or any book, for example. Any book if you read, normally it has introductions. Anyone tell me what's the meaning of introduction? Introduction. I think we come across many times introduction. But what does it mean, introduction? So remember, whatever you do, that's my other suggestion. Please do with understanding. Because most of the problem will be resolved if you know the meaning of it. Because most of the meaning, they are all self-explanatory. The term itself, you know the meaning, you know to some extent what does it mean. Yes.
My version of abstract.
So okay. Right.
Overview.
Overview. Okay.
Telling about the subject.
Telling about the subject. Okay.
Primary idea of something.
Primary knowledge.
Primary knowledge. Okay.
Brief idea of something.
Idea of something.
Yeah, brief idea of
Idea of something. Okay. Idea of something. All right. Description of something. Okay. Of something. Yes.
Beginning.
Beginning. Beginning. Okay.
Maybe,
Please.
introducing the topic of research. Introducing the topic on.
Introduce. Very good. Introducing your topic. That's the right term. Introduce it. That's why we call introduction.
I don't want to repeat the sound.
We don't say overview. We don't say background. We call introduction. That means introduce. For example, you have to do an introduction of this lecture. I ask you to introduce yourself. Who you are, where you come from, what is your field of specialization, what is your interest, right? Introduce. Okay, so that's what I said. The meaning comes from the term itself. That's why we use the term introduction. We don't use overview. We don't use background. We don't use profile. We don't use preclude. We use introduction. That means to introduce your research topic. What is the purpose of your topic? What is the topic all about? What is the purpose of the topic? What is the background behind the topic? Background. My background. Okay, background. Now the introduction followed by a background. That means you are going to explain under that, I call it as a subsection. Introduction as the main section, or we can say chapter. And background, research, gap, and rationale, they're all subsection. So background means you're going to explain in the background what happened before you start your research on that area, on that topic, background. So most of the meaning of the term lies in the term itself. That's why I said you have to please try to make an effort through your vocabulary, your command of the language as much as you can. Because you can do that, you can understand. I mean, all the terms they are self-explanatory. After the problem is resolved. If it is still not clear, then you can dig it down further to know what does it means. Okay. So introduction talks about introducing your topic, your research topic, which means under introduction you have to cover the purpose of study, as I said. And also the number one is the background. What happened on your research topic before you start this topic? What happened? Give a background. Okay. So normally all PhD dissertation or thesis start with a chapter on introduction. Okay, background. So you have to give a brief explanation for the background of your research topic. Okay, so background. Then we have gap, research gap and rationale. So research gap, I think we discussed at length before. When you read as many literature as possible, you can able to identify the research gap. So you have to specify it clearly, precisely, concisely. You have to specify. What is the research gap on your topic? What is the gap that you are going to investigate, where other researchers didn't touch on those? So you have to succinctly and precisely explain it under research gap. It's something it's not overnight, remember, it's not easy. I think some ask the question. We are struggling to identify this, right? That's not the process. It takes some time. It takes months, not days. It takes months to identify the research gap. But if you do reading constantly, you can reduce that time. That's why reading is very important, as I said, as I emphasized in the beginning. Okay. So under research gap, you have to clearly explain what's the research gap that you are going to investigate. Because the research gap you are going to investigate throughout your entire 3 years. Okay, that's the gap. Then rationale. What's the rationale behind? What's the reason behind identifying all this research? So you need to explain all this. I think everyone understands the meaning of rationale, right? Rationale, the reason. We have this research topic that you want to investigate. So again, that rationale also need to be clearly explained under that subsection. Research gap and rationale. Then moving on, problem statement. So remember, all research starts with a problem. If there is no problem, no research. Is that right? For example, I think the other day they talked about the gender inequality. That's a problem in many countries, right? Gender inequality. So to address that problem, there may be researchers interested to study on that gender, what contributes gender inequality between male and female. What are the factors that contribute? They start to do research on gender equality, but there's a problem behind it. So all the research, they revolve around the problem. So we can put it as simple as it is. No problem, no research. So what does it mean? You have identified what is the problem that you want to address as part of your investigation for your PhD. So we call it as problem statement. But don't run into pages. Don't write 4 pages, 5 pages. The more problem that you create, the more time that you require to complete your thesis. Okay? Make it, I suggest make it 1 paragraph or 2 paragraph maximum. Problem statement should not go into pages. We try to list all the problems because you have to turn the world upside down through your research. That's highly unlikely, right? Highly unlikely. And you cannot cover everything on the topic. You cannot cover everything. That's also highly unlikely, highly possible. So the more research, the more problems that you highlight, that means the more data is required, the more time is required to complete your PhD. So you have to extend beyond your 3 years minimum duration, which anyone don't want to do that. Okay, everyone want to complete in 3 years, right? So we have to be precise on the problem. What specific problem that you want to address? Specific, the term specific. What specific problem on that topic that you want to address which were not covered by the previous researchers or other researchers? The problem can be very minor in nature, doesn't matter. So you have to specify your problem according to your topic that you want to investigate. So this is very important, remember. Okay, so don't elaborate into pages and the problem statement. So you'll be landing trouble later on. Because these are the commitment, remember, commitment that you're making. So I think have you all did any consultancy project before you start? Did you all any consultancy firms, consultancy project before you come for your PhD studies? Anyone? You work anywhere consultant firms, especially the engineers who are doing your PhD, or even law firm, you also do consultancy job project. Okay, anyway. So consultancy is like an agreement between you as a consultant and the client you are doing the project. The clients are the companies, the firms where you get the project. So they are the client, you are the consultant. So when you have this problem statement objectives at the beginning of your consultancy project, it's a kind of agreement between you as a consultant and a client. And you cannot change that later on. If you change that, we land in trouble. But it's an agreement that we already made. It's a promise. It's a promise that we already made to the client that you are going to do this. You are going to investigate all these problems. Because you already highlighted in the problem statement. You are going to address all these problems. So at the later stage, you realize if you want to address, you need more time because consultancy project, it was a fixed duration. 1 year or 2 years, not more than that. So whether you like it or not, if you cannot complete within that duration, then you get a black mark. Next time you will not get any project. So the point that I want to emphasize here is why it has to be specific, because later on we should not land in trouble. If you have many problems under this, as a result you found out later, not at the initial stage. At the later stage, to address all these problems, you need more time, more effort, more data, more analysis. Then at that time, after when you are in second year, third year of your PhD thesis, you cannot go back. Go back and say, I want to revise my problem statement. Because there are so many things that I want to address. So that is not possible. Okay? So what you have to do at the initial stage, you have to understand your role. You are doing your PhD only for 3 years. So you have to Identify a specific problem which can be addressed within 3 years. Okay, so what I want to say is try to limit the problem that you want to address within the 3-year duration. Unless if you want to spend 6 years. If you want to spend 6 years, then that's different. You can expand the problem. Because we are looking at the requirement of the PhD thesis. Whether you feel free, because it's a training. PhD is like a training on research. We are providing training. The supervisor, when you discuss with your supervisors on the topic, they are providing you training how to do research. So remember, you are not addressing all the problem within the topic. So this is very important, and you must understand at the very beginning of your research thesis. Okay, so try to confine, specify your problem statement which can be addressed within the minimum duration of your PhD thesis. If you're not clear, please discuss with your supervisor. The supervisor will guide you. That's the reason the supervision comes. The supervisor will be in a position to suggest or explain to you, okay, this problem cannot be addressed in 3 years. You need more time, more data. So try to reduce or try to confine or specify your problem more clearly. You will suggest, you will supervise. Anyway, I'm about to send this message to everyone. Okay. So this is very important, and it comes only at the beginning of your thesis. So at the later stage, you can't change. Okay. So you have to keep that in mind very firm. So as the term dictates, it's a problem statement. So you're going to have a statement on your topic involving problem. Make sure there's a problem there in the statement, not benefits, advantages. When someone reads your problem statement, it doesn't look like a problem. It looks advantages. It looks disadvantages. So what do you want to investigate? It must have a problem. I think you all know a problem, right? The meaning of problem. I think you know the difference between problem and issues. Problem and issues. Two different things. Okay? Problem. And the same thing, the gap that we are talking about. That's a problem. What is desired and what is actual. Desired, I want to be like this, I want to be like that. That is desired. Right? And actual is what you are currently now. And this gap increases, the intensity of problem also increases. If you are very close to the desire, what you want, the problem is very narrow. Is it right? If the distance is very wide, the intensity of problem is much bigger. Okay, so you need more time to achieve what you want to desire. Okay, same applies here in research. Okay, so my suggestion is, this is very important. You have to think more seriously, more closely. You have to spend more time and try to specify a problem as much as you can. So if you cannot do it on your own, please consult with your supervisors. And this should be done at the beginning of your research, not at the later stage. Later stage, even supervisor cannot help you. But they have, I think you know the formation of the committee here in these universities. They have this research and development committee, where they do it once in every semesters. So you have to, after you come out with your initial proposals, you have to defend your proposal to the committee. The committee will suggest. But before that, you must have a consultation with your supervisors before you come for that committee to defend your PhD proposals. So one of them is the problem statement. Is it clear, everyone? What to write at the problem statement? Everyone clear? Okay, so that's problem statement. Then moving on, research questions. Okay, it's a question, right? Research questions. Okay. So normally research questions, I have the lab, but I want to give you a brief introduction on this because I have slides on each and every one of this, especially on the introductions. I have slides. But I give you a glimpse of this research questions. So research question normally come from your problem statement. Because questions, they are questions. So what does it mean? You're going to find answers for those questions. So how do we develop? How do we generate research questions? It comes from your problem statement. And question normally starts with, we all know, it starts with what, how, why, where, when, right? But here, we have to focus because you're doing research at the PhD level. So you have to cover as many questions as possible on how and why, not what. Now, what are basic understanding? Because here, it's a contribution, right? So you should ask the question of why like this, why like that. That's where the research needs to find answers. Why? Okay. Why some countries are highly developed? Why some countries are less developed? Why? Right. Then you start to do such study. Collect data. Why? Why Singapore is a developed country and India is a developing country? Why? Because Singapore, you know, right? You all know, right, Singapore? Singapore is a very small country. It's a country, it's a state, it's also a city. 3 in 1. Like instead, 3 in 1. It's a country by itself, it's a state, it's also a city. And if you look at the world map, it's only a dot. We have to use the lens to magnify the position of Singapore where it is. But it appears as a subcontinent. Okay. But Singapore became a developed country way back 20 years ago. Even though it's a small, very tiny country with a population of only 3.5 billion, 4 billion, not more than that, 4 billion. Much smaller compared to India and China and other countries, big countries. But why has Singapore become highly advanced country compared to other developing countries? So that is a question that you may want to investigate. Why? Why? So you start to collect data. Then from the data you analyze and you come up with the answers. Your findings, after you collect data, analyze your data, because analysis will lead to findings. The findings will tell you what is the answer for that question. Why? Why has Singapore become highly developed country as compared to other developing countries? Why? Same research. So you have to focus more your research question on why and how. How it happens. Okay, how. But it doesn't mean that you should not touch on what. What also got many points. You should focus more on why and how. So next one. Number 2, also limit the number of research questions. Don't have too many research questions. My guide is not more than 5. Maximum. But they say like problem statement, the more the question that you have, the more the time that you have to spend. As a result, the more the data you need to collect. Remember, at the beginning, you all remember what I said on data. What I said on data. I said something on data at the beginning of this lecture. What did I say? Huh?
So what data to be collected and how it has to be analyzed?
And both, yes, but particularly on data, I say something. You can, listen to my lecture very closely if you can able to study.
Most of the time will be spent.
Yes, please, sir. Yeah, please.
Most of the time will be spent.
Time consuming. Very good. Time consuming. I say that right. Data, you have to spend a lot of time, a lot of efforts. You spend most of your time. It consumes most of your time, 40%, 50% of your time. So, back to the research question, that means you need more data. That means more amount of time that you have to spend on your research. So you cannot complete in 3 years. So for that reason, you have to limit the number of research questions. That's important. Limit. Probably not more than 5 as a guideline. That's number 1. Number 2, the questions come from your problem statement. It comes from how do we develop research questions? How do you formulate? How do you formulate research questions? You formulate from problem statement. The problem statement will tell you what should be the research question that you want to find answers at the end of your thesis. Okay. So for any thesis, it's very important to have research questions. That is where your entire thesis will lead you, will guiding you until you complete your PhD thesis. Okay. So for all the faculties that you come from, it's very important as part of the PhD thesis, you must include research questions, which means you are going to find answers to those research questions. Okay, that's one. And the other point that I like, focus more on how and why questions as part of your formulation of research questions. Is it clear on research questions? I have some elaboration. But anyways, it's only glimpse. Because I was told that each unit covered 4 hours, right? Is it 4 hours each unit? I was told on Saturday. You have classes on this methodology on Friday and Saturday, right? Okay. So that is all. Okay, we'll discuss further on this. I have some slides on this as well, which I would like to share with you later. Then objectives. Research objectives. Very, very, very important. Okay. I think even in your master's, bachelor, you also have objective, right, for your project. Master's thesis, bachelor thesis objective. You all know what is objective all about? Because you already come across. What is objective? Objective.
What to achieve?
What?
What to achieve?
What to achieve. What to achieve comes at the end.
So the step that we take to achieve what? Aim is something that we want to achieve at the end. The objectives are the steps that we take to achieve that aim.
Steps. Okay. So in that way, how it is different from methodology?
Different methods that we take.
Now, if you say that they are the steps to achieve the objective, then in what way that is different from methodology?
So in methodology, we study about the methods.
Methods to achieve objective, right? Which in methods mean the steps that you are going to take to achieve objectives.
So small, we can divide our research into parts. Achieving that parts is basically we can say it's a objective, that one objective is completed. Different research questions achieved maybe.
Okay. Okay, I get some point from your response. Okay, let's hear from others. Okay, please.
It is the
Okay.
aim of the research. Aim of the research. The end result.
Aim of the?
Aim of the study or research.
Of the study. Aim of the study. Okay. Okay. Study. That's the point. Okay.
End result.
Huh?
End result. End result.
Method.
End result. End result.
End. Okay. End. Okay. Right.
What is that you want to address?
Good. What do you want that you want to address? What you want to study. But achieve come later. Before you achieve, you want to define what you want to study. You're right. Without defining what you want to study, how do you know whether you can achieve or not? Achieve comes later, right? So in the initial stage, you have to define what you want to study. In relation to your topic, this is topic, what actually that you want to study. So those what we call research objectives. We call research because this is related to research. So what you want to study for that particular research topic or research objectives. And there are certain attributes, characteristics of objective. In short, we call it SMART. SMART approach. Have you heard about SMART approach? When we formulate objectives, right? Can you tell me now, please? Okay, SMART, S-M-A-R-T, right? S stands for specific. Very good, specific. M? Measurable. Very good. Measure. Measure means the objective must be measurable. You must have data. Otherwise, objective cannot be achieved. Measurable. A, Achievable. And R, relevant. Or, no, R, relevant or reliable. And it's one more word. Reliable, relevant. The more specific word, R.
Realistic.
Good. Realistic. It must be realistic. It must be realistic. If it's not realistic, can we achieve the objective? We cannot. If it's not realistic. For example, if you want to turn the world upside down, is it realistic? Even if you spend 20 years, that is till the end of our life, we cannot do that. They are not realistic. It's highly impossible. So, R, realistic. Your objective must be. So remember, because this objective we are going to achieve within 3 years. And that's why we have the T, time bound. A time bound is a time frame. How many years or months that you need to complete or achieve your objectives. So the objective should be defined, formulated within that time bound, within that time frame, within that time bound. So this SMART approach will help you to formulate your objective. If you feel that it doesn't apply to this, we have to revise the objective until it fulfills this SMART approach. If it's not specific, you have to make it specific. If the objective, let's say normally any basic thesis you may have 4 or 5 objectives. The normal guide is 4 objectives normally. So you have to look at each objective very closely and ask yourself whether it is specific or not. If it is not specific, you have to make it specific by revising your objective many times. Revise until it becomes specific. All the 4 objectives. Then you look at your objective again. See whether they are measurable. Measurable means whether you can collect data on those objectives. If the data cannot be collected, that means they are not measurable. If we cannot get data, or if there is no data for that objective, which means they are not measurable. So what you have to do in that case, you have to rewrite your objective until it becomes measurable. Yeah.
So it's measurable, quantifiable.
It can be qualitative, it can be quantitative. Because we have different techniques. Qualitative techniques, qualitative data. You know the different types of data?
I mean quantifiable, quantity.
Quantity.
I said the measurable. Could it be interchangeable with quantifiable? Like knowing the quantity exact amount when you say measurable?
Same measurable can be interchangeably used with quantifiable.
Could it be? The question is, you said measurable. Could it be interchangeable with quantifiable?
Okay. Whether it can be used, quantifiable can be used, the term can be used in place of measurable question. Yeah, it can be. Then you can say S2ART. Yes. Okay. Measurable, you're right. Quantifiable, yes, that's fine. But quantifiable, it can be quantitative, it can be qualitative. That one we have, because normally research involves both. Not necessarily all the data must be quantitative data. It can also be qualitative data. You all know, right, the difference between quantitative and qualitative. Everyone knows? Because quantity only deals with quantitative data normally deals with numbers. Okay, very good. Qualitative? Okay, I'll give an example. Age. Is it quantitative data or qualitative data? Age. Quantitative data. The numbers, right? Gender. Male, female, only 2 categories. But sometimes they also have 3 categories. Unknown. Did you know that? Yeah, they have. Have you heard about that? You should know as a researcher. Unknown. They come neither male nor female. Especially in Germany and other European countries. Even in the IC. Okay, that's not our question of importance here. So, gender is a quality. And you also know the difference between primary and secondary data?
Yes.
Primary and secondary. So primary, what does it mean? Yeah. First hand data, which means normally come from where?
From questionnaires.
Okay, from us, from the researchers. It can be from the questionnaire, it can be from experiments, it can be from sample collections. Okay, so that's a primary data. Secondary, from literature or any reports or data collected by some other researchers, not by you. Some other researchers which were already published in article, in the previous PhD thesis, which are already there. They're all secondary. So what's the difference? I mean, if you compare these two, which one is more accurate? Why it is more accurate? Primary is why it's more accurate compared to secondary. That is what? First hand data. Okay, other than first hand data. Because you say collected by you, right? Okay, please, at the back. Please, can you speak louder? Hmm? Original data. Related to completion. Population. Now we are not talking about the parameters. We are not talking about the parameters.
So free from biasness.
Huh?
If we can choose a primary data, it will be free from biasness.
Okay. Right. Okay. Any other response?
You actively participate in the process.
It is realistic.
You actively participated in the process of
Okay.
collecting those
Participation in the process. Okay. Perfect. Any others? Yeah.
More authentic, more realistic.
More realistic.
Authentic. Authentic.
Authentic. Okay. Authentic. Authentic, realistic. Some say population, some say original. Original, right? Right. So primary because it is collected by you. Right? Because we are talking about accuracy. Accuracy between primary and secondary. And we say primary are more accurate. You agree or not? Primary data more accurate compared to secondary. Why? Because collected by you. Unless we make mistakes, and then it's not accurate. Normally we don't mistake. We make sure that we prepare the data in a way that it will lead to accuracy. But secondary data or the data collected by someone else, can we verify the authenticity of that data, how they collect? Can we verify that? The method they use, how they collect, how long they spend to collect the data? No, we cannot. We cannot. So in that sense, it raises some question mark on the accuracy of second data, because second data or the data collected by someone else. So we cannot check on the accuracy of the second. So in that context, primary data, they are more accurate compared to second data. So what does it mean in our context? We have to make an attempt, sincere attempt, to make sure your data maybe come from primary source. But again, keep in mind, it does not mean that we cannot use second data. No, we can still use. We can still use second data. So when we can use, if we cannot data on your own. In many instances, we may also need data from secondary sources. Because remember, I said at the beginning, data is a time consuming. At the same time, it also consumes a lot of money. A lot of money it consumes. It's both time consuming and money consuming. Data. You have to spend a lot of money because we look at any project, 1 million, 2 million projects. Most of the money goes for data. 60% of the budget goes for the data. Because why they spend a lot of money on the data, they want to make sure the data that they collect are accurate. What happens if the data is not accurate? What are the implications?
Findings will be incorrect.
Findings?
Findings will be incorrect.
Okay. Any other response?
Misguiding. It can be misguiding.
Misguiding. So what happened? If the data is not accurate,
In proportional result.
Okay, in our research, let's say we talk about research, with relation to research.
Objective would be achieved.
Objective will be, okay. The data you're going to collect, you're going to use where? You're going to use the data.
Experiments.
Experiment on your research, right?
Yes.
It means you're going to apply analysis.
Yes.
The technique to analyze the data that you collect. So what happens if the data is not accurate? Because analysis leads to
Findings.
huh?
Qualitative data.
Analysis. After analysis, that leads to what? As a result, we get what?
Findings.
Findings, right? Findings.
Yes.
Good. So if the data is not accurate, your findings will be affected. Which means you will not get the actual or true findings. Because the data is not accurate. Which means your conclusion will also go wrong. Because your findings are distorted. Because of the inaccuracy of the data, the findings are distorted. As a result, you may make a wrong conclusion, which is totally out of the actual conclusion of your research topic. And that's the reason why we ensure the data is of the highest standard. Is of very accurate. Make sure that your research leads to actual or true findings at the end of your research. Okay, remember, after you spend 3 years, you cannot go back. You cannot go back to your first year. No. And that's the reason why we make sure at the beginning the data you collect, they are accurate. So you make all the efforts within your limit to ensure the data you collect are highly accurate. Otherwise, you will be end up collecting the data again, which means you have to spend more time, more money, more resources, which is utterly waste because it's a time-consuming process. So this is another important point that I want to convey to everyone. Make sure the data is very, very important. Okay? The data you have to ensure whatever way that you're going to collect data, whether it's experiment or in the field or in the form of survey, you have to spend a lot of time, you have to prepare well, make sure the data you collect are accurate. If the data goes wrong, you have to spend more time, which is not highly feasible. Okay, so that need to be in your mind very firm. Okay. Okay, objective. Okay, we are going to elaborate. I think after that concept. Okay, hypothesis. Are you okay with the hypothesis? Tentative solution. Tentative statements. Okay. What's the literal meaning of hypothesis? Expected outcome. Expected outcome. Huh? Very good. Assumptions. Or we can say presumptions. Presumptions or assumptions. Normally, this assumption we don't get it on our own. We get it from the theoretical part or from our own practice. If you are highly qualified in terms of experience, you can also come up with hypothesis from your experience on that topic because you did a lot of work before. You know exactly. So, from your experience, you can also develop hypothesis. But normally, at your stage as a PhD scholar, because you're about to begin on your PhD, you don't have prior experience on research. So, in that case, normally you have to develop hypothesis from literature. Literature review from theoretical part. It comes from theory. But again, remember, it is not compulsory. It is not compulsory to include hypothesis in that chapter. It depends on the needs. Needs according to your research topic, according to your research objectives. So it's not all research must include hypothesis. No. But some research really required to include. So if there is a need to include, then you must know what it is. What is a research hypothesis? So remember, once you formulate a hypothesis from literature, you are going to test the hypothesis. From your data, from your analysis, from your finding, you are going to test whether that assumption, presumption as part of hypothesis is true or false. So to test the hypothesis, whether it is true or not, you are going to apply research techniques, research method to test the hypothesis. Normally we apply statistical method. Are you familiar with the chi-square method? Statistical chi-square. Chi-square normally applied for this nominal. You know the data, again there are other categories of data. We talk about primary, secondary, right? Then also we talk about quantitative, qualitative. There is another type of data where we can categorize the data. Are you familiar with that? During your master's thesis? Anyone? We have only 5 minutes before we end. Anyone? Other than quantitative, qualitative, then primary, secondary, we can also define or categorize the data to different types.
Nominal, ordinal.
Very good. Nominal, ordinal, and interval ratio. That's another way we define it. Normally that applies for statistics. So I'm saying that to test your hypothesis because you're going to apply statistical method. So the method you're going to apply to test the hypothesis, that method depends on what type of data that you collected for your topic, whether it is a nominal data, ordinal data, or interval. I'll give an example very quickly. Nominal, gender, they are nominal. Nominal means they are categorical data. We cannot do anything. Just is a gender, male, female. Or race. In Malaysia, there are 3 major races. Malay, Chinese, Indians. Again, there is a nominal data. We cannot do anything. That's a category. Gender, it has 2 categories. Race, it has 3 or 4 categories. In the US, there are many races. Hispanic, many races there. So that's only category. That's nominal. So for nominal data, there are some techniques that we can use. Other techniques we cannot use. You know the ordinal we can rank the data. We can rank from ascending to descending order or from descending to ascending order. We can rank. For example, perception. We say highly qualified, qualified, neutral, less qualified, very less qualified. Can we order it or not? Or extremely happy, happy, not at all happy, less happy. Can we rank it or not?
Yes.
So they are all ordinal data. We can rank according to higher to lower order or from lower to higher order. That's ordinal. And last one is interval. Interval is more on numerical value. Age, then income, household income or monthly income, they're all ordinal because it points to 0. It has 0 value. And they're all quantitative data. So they are all considered as interval ratio data. So you may deal with that, and those who are in social sciences or humanities faculties, when you deal with, or even for engineering, for example. If you apply statistical method as part of your analysis, you may come across this type of data, ordinal, nominal, and categorical. So accordingly, you have to choose the method of analysis. So remember, not all methods apply to one type of data. Some methods apply only to specific data. Some other methods apply to other type of data. So that you have to be clear. Otherwise, your findings may go wrong. Okay, so that's another thing. Then scope, I think we discussed that before, scope of study. And limitations. That's very quickly. Again, that's my problem. We have one more class at close later on. Limitations. What's limitation?
Drawback.
Hmm?
Drawbacks. Drawbacks.
Drawbacks. Are they drawbacks?
What not to do?
Okay. You can take that one. We accept that. Drawback. Okay. Any other response? Limitations.
Extent.
So the areas which we have not covered in our study and will be going to cover in future.
They are not covered in our study. Okay.
Exclusion.
Limitations. What is the literal meaning of limitations? Because everyone has limitations, right?
Extent.
I also have limitations. I cannot do everything. No one can do everything. Boundaries. Okay, boundaries. No one can do everything. Not anything. No one can do everything. There are some limitations behind. So even in your research, there are limitations. Because you have to complete your research in 3 years, right? Which you cannot cover everything. So there are some, for example, limitation may be in the form of data. Because data, as I said, is a time-consuming process. It's a money-consuming process. So you cannot collect all the data that is required for your research. So it can be the form of data, or it can be the form of the method to collect the data. Because, for example, some equipments you need to do the experiments. That equipment may not be available in the lab. Okay, so limitation. So what we have to do, we have to define this limitation very clearly under introduction, the first chapter. So that anyone read, they know, okay, this research has these limitations. But remember, it cannot be shortcomings. Limitation are the thing that is beyond the control of a research scholar. Beyond the control. And that's a key word. Beyond your control. Which is beyond your control. You don't have any control over it. I'll give an example. Let's say you want data from some authority, government authority. You want some data for your research. Okay, so you make an appointment, you go and meet the authority. Authority say, okay, please come next week. Okay, next week again, you make an appointment, you go again. Then you come after 3 days. So the time keeps dragging, which is within your control or not? Is it within your control? No. It's beyond your control. You want the data, but you cannot get the data for some valid reasons, which is what we call beyond your control. So those we can specify under limitations. So remember, limitation, it can be acceptable, but it should be beyond the control of the research scholar. At the same time, it should not reflect on the shortcomings. And that is not acceptable. Shortcomings. Without making shortcoming, what I mean is, without making any effort, we just simply say, for the purpose of completing your thesis in 3 years, limitation. No one can accept that. You make all the efforts. Within your limit, you have to make all the efforts. And only after that, you found, okay, even by putting all the efforts, still I cannot get the data. And then it can be limitations. Okay, so we stop here. Unless I take one question maybe. Anyone have any questions? You are clear what we discussed? Everyone?
Sure.
I'm not sure how effective the lecture is. Okay. So any questions that you want to raise? Any question from anyone that you want to raise?
How many objective ways that is the risk?
Normally not more than 4. Okay. But make sure that, remember, the number of objectives, again, you have to have the scope. Make sure 4 or 5 objectives, all the scopes are covered in that 4 or 5. So the scope is a guideline for you to define the number of objectives. But normally for any PhD thesis, it should not be more than 4 or maximum 5. Because the more the objectives, the more the time you spend. Sometimes what happened, okay, it's a good question she raised.
What is the minimum?
Minimum is not a minimum. You can have 1. 1 is not for PhD. Okay. This is a very relevant question she asked. I missed the point. Your question is on the objective, right? The number of objectives. I was supposed to say something that I forgot. Okay, I cannot recollect. Okay. Someone is looking. Okay, any other questions? We can take those. We will discuss that. We have one more class of 2 hours. I'm going to try to recollect whatever was. Right. So if there is no other questions, okay. Thank you so much for your attention. It's a hope to see you again.
Thank you.
Excuse me, where is the attendance sheet? Attendance sheet, please. Okay.
Attendance sheet.
Where is the attendance sheet? एक मिनट रुकिए No proxies, please. Please time for yourself.